Good evening, IFL Nation, and welcome in. We have taken today's show on the road here at Dave & Buster's, just outside the city limits of Boston, Massachusetts, for the first playoff edition of the 2025 series. It is 8 p.m. over here on the East Coast, which means that it is Wager Wednesday in the Indoor Football League. Thank you so much for tuning in, taking some time out of your busy evening to discuss some playoff football. We're at that time of year. For those of you who are new to the league, the forum, or this channel, I want to warmly welcome you aboard. Glad you came in at just the right time. My name is Alan Schuberth. I am a huge fan of the indoor football game, a passion that I have channeled into my current role as lead IFL contributor for Sports Coast to Coast, which is a Pacific Northwest-based sports forum site that specializes specifically in the coverage of the 14 indoor football league member teams specifically. Each week, we provide up-to-date team rosters, game previews, game recaps, hot takes, and a whole host of other analysis out there. If you call yourself a fan of the Indoor Football League, Sports Coast to Coast must become your number one destination for all things league related. I put the URL for the forum in the description. It is there where you will find my written version of today's piece, which I am live streaming right now. So go check that out if you would like. And now I'll pull in the presentation segment of the night. So 19 weeks, 112 games, all in the books. It is playoff time. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So week 19 had everything that you would imagine. We had already established our 8 playoff teams, but that didn't stop chaos and pandemonium from reigning rampant from Friday through Sunday in the league. We had one team establish themselves as the top dog. We had playoff seeding completely up for grabs. We had comebacks. We had blown leads. We'll go over each and every one of these games in the detail that it deserves in just a little bit. We'll find out how things shook out in terms of regular season results, by spread, by Moneyline, by over-under, by bet type, and by team. Figure out how we did, how we stacked up with our preseason goals. And once we do all of our reflection, we're going to dive right in to predicting the first round playoff slate. 4 games, a 3-leg parlay attempt, and a special announcement at the end of tonight's segment. So don't go anywhere for that. Alrighty, week 19. We kicked off with 2 games on Friday, one of which was the Bay Area Panthers traveling all the way to the other coast of the country to play the Massachusetts Pirates, who had already been eliminated from playoff contention. We had suspected that the offensive starters for Bay Area weren't going to get that much time in this game. Their grand total of action lasted 1 snap. It was a Josh Jones touchdown pass to a wide-open Tyrese Chambers, and that was all that Rob Keefe needed to see to say, hey, you guys are good. Let's let Liam Thompson and some of the other backups run their course and see how they do. This game's tempo was set entirely by the Panthers, who picked off Pirate starter Tolia Tagovailoa twice in the first quarter of the game, built up an early 14-point lead, and did not look back, as Thompson looked every bit the part of a capable indoor football quarterback, leading the Panthers to a 40-plus point evening. We had the under at 78.5, and we basically needed 2 defensive stands with under 4 minutes to go to get us to that mark. The Pirates held their end of the bargain on the penultimate drive, and the Panthers got their 3rd interception of the game right at the goal line, inside of a minute to go. So Bay Area clinches the top record in the Indoor Football League for a 2nd year in a row. They beat Massachusetts 45-30 as the Pirates suffer their worst season as a franchise, which also happens to be their first losing season in franchise history. So that game got us kicked off. along with the Iowa Barnstormers and the Fishers Freight. This one kicked off simultaneously as the one in Lowell did. And the first 20 minutes or so of this game was reasonably competitive. Iowa got out in front, then Fishers made a stand to get themselves out in front. This was a 1-point game, 21-20 in the early going. But then the Freight really kicked it into second gear. Or actually rather sixth gear if you think about it. They ripped off a 31-0 run. It included a pick six, it included a safety, and another merciless offensive attack from Felix Harper. It was simply the perfect way to conclude the expansion season of the Fishers Freight, who wind up as the team to score the most points in a single game in the Indoor Football League this season. They do so as part of an 81-40 drubbing of the Iowa Barnstormers. So the season concludes for both teams. The Freight at 7-9, 5-game winning streak to end the season. And for Iowa, a brutal season finishes with just one win as the first team in the IFL in 3 years to only get a single win on the season. So that was Friday's action. Saturday, we kicked off with 2 games in the 7 p.m. Eastern window, one of which was the Green Bay Blizzard against the Jacksonville Sharks. A battle for both teams as far as potential playoff positioning. And this game was marked by the hot start of the Green Bay Blizzard. They ran perfect offense through the first few possessions. Andrew Mevis hit a couple of deuces for good measure. And all of a sudden, the Blizzard were up 25-7, looking like they were going to put a scare into Quad City's chances potentially of hanging on to the number 1 seed. Not so fast, said Jacksonville, who also had something to play for, as a win could have got them up to the number 3 seed in the conference leading up to the playoffs. The Sharks, from that 25-7 point, went on a 19-point unanswered run to take the lead. From there, the Blizzard and the Sharks battled it out pretty evenly up until an early fourth quarter fumble by the Blizzard gave some more momentum to the Sharks, and that is all that they needed to get the separation necessary to pull out the win in this game. So Jacksonville and Green Bay tie up in the standings with a 10-6 record. The Sharks take care of business at home. 63-53 is your final score there. And we'll get into their seeding in just a little bit. Meanwhile, we will head over to the Northern Arizona San Antonio game. Another one that didn't have much in the way of playoff implications, but more so towards whoever wins generates positive momentum for 2026. And in the case of the San Antonio Gunslingers, they leaned upon their defense early and often in this one, as the offense just ran rampant on a Wranglers defense in a deceptively tough test on the road. The Gunslingers played out the first 30 minutes and built a 35-10 halftime lead. At that point, it was just about pulling it the rest of the way through for the last 30 minutes, which San Antonio did beautifully. That game ends with a Gunslinger win by a score of 49-30. So the Gunslingers finish with a record of 5-11. Northern Arizona's rough season finishes with 2 wins and 14 losses. The game between the Oilers and the Steamwheelers. This was the other game with Eastern Conference playoff impact. What a game this was. It featured offense early and often, something that we really hadn't seen in any of the prior 2 meetings between these 2 teams. As Sam Castronova and Daquan Neal duked it out. At halftime, it was a narrow 1-point lead for Quad City, up 28-27, thanks in large part to Kyle Kaplan, who had hit a field goal at the buzzer, along with a pair of deuces in that first half. From there, the third quarter, Quad City tried to pull away. They got ahead by 6, 7, 8 points. And then a quarterback change in the fourth quarter from Daquan Neal to Seth Morgan kind of opened the door a little bit for the Oilers, who made an important stop on downs. And they were able to get a game, what turned out to be a go-ahead field goal from Jonah Edwards to put themselves up by 1. The Steam Wheelers on the last drive of the game put themselves into chip shot territory for Kaplan, who at this point had 4 deuces in the game. But unfortunately, he got the ball on an off angle and it went right on him. Did his attempt to win the game with about 20 seconds left on the clock. So the Oilers win for a 3rd consecutive time in Moline. They stay undefeated at Vibrant Arena. They get the close win here, 49-48, cashing our plus 160 Moneyline ticket. So the Oilers finish at 10-6. The Steam Wheelers finish at 11-5. So in order in that Eastern Conference, you have Quad City as the number 1. And that 3-way tie at 10-6 is broken by Green Bay at number 2, Tulsa at number 3, and Jacksonville at number 4. So that is how the playoff picture in the East shakes out. And now we'll discuss what happened with the playoff picture in the West, starting with Saturday's final game between the Tucson Sugar Skulls and the Vegas Nighthawks, 2 teams with much different agendas. Heading into this one, the Nighthawks, with the win and a San Diego loss, stood to jump up to number 3 in the Western Conference, whereas the Sugar Skulls were trying to get to the finish line of the season. And that was really evidenced by a rough first half. They only scored 3 points as Vegas raced out to a 27-3 lead. The second half belonged entirely to Jerome Johnson, who ran a perfect offense from that point on. Tucson got a couple of touchdowns to save a little bit of face, but still ended up as a blowout. The Nighthawks, no nonsense, put the Sugar Skulls out 55-18. So the Nighthawks finish the season 10-6. Tucson the other way around at 6-10 as their season comes to an end. So Vegas, entering Sunday's game, was the number 3 seed. They needed San Diego to lose Sunday's game, hosting the Arizona Rattlers, in order to retain that spot. And after Arizona took an early lead, the rest of that first half belonged entirely to San Diego. Drew Powell actually got into the game in the 3rd series, but the 3rd and 4th possessions for Arizona were each fumbles. The second of which not only went for a San Diego recovery for a touchdown, but also dinged up Drew Powell, apparently. Shoulder injury, which forced him out for the rest of the game. So Dalton Snead has to go back in. He barely throws a pass for the remainder of the contest as the Rattlers go run heavy. San Diego pretty much winning the game in the first half. And the second half wasn't really a whole lot to write about, as both teams were clearly prepared for their rematch to come on Monday night. So the season finale ends with San Diego taking the cake, 46-26 over Arizona, just their 2nd lifetime win against the Rattlers. So out in the West, number 1 Bay Area, number 2 Arizona, number 3 San Diego, and number 4 Vegas. So we went 6-1 on the week, 62-50 on the season, where the only bet type for us that went under 500 was, ironically enough, favorites on the money line. Leave it to somebody like me to make the theoretically most simple the most complex. But hey, that's how it shakes out sometime in this game. Of our 50 losses, exactly half were 1-score margins. And of those 25 losses, just 40% of those were by 3 points or fewer. So for the most part, whenever we lost a bet, we were right there where a play or 2 difference could have been the difference between adding a few wins to that total. But still, 62-50, very, very happy with that season-long result. Our parlay of the week, we fell the same thing as the last 4 that went before it. 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3. I find it shocking that we've nailed 67% of these picks for the past 5 weeks and have had nothing to show for it in this department. The leg that undid us this time was the Pirates at plus 130 against the Panthers, a game that they lost by 15 points. Our other 2 picks of Iowa and Fisher's over and Vegas at minus 6.5 breezed through with these. So I've been saying it for more than a month now. We are right there. this last parlay attempt of the season, it's really going to put that to the test. I'm really hoping that we finally get rewarded with that fourth parlay win. Our yearly results to date bring us up to a high point. Thanks to our best week of the season, we saved the very best for last, transforming our year-to-date result from about a 1 unit net loss as far as profit margin on the flat method to nearly 4 units of net gain. The weighted method is still trickling behind below that break-even point, but a good good postseason for us could probably see that venture north of that line, which if we can do that, it adds another element to what is a very successful season as far as predictions go. Same deal with this graph, which judges it by percent. We are very, very close to that 5% mark that was our preseason goal. It's probably going to take at least 5-2, maybe 6-1 to get to that point, just simply by the sheer volume of games that we have played up to this point. But anything is possible, as we've seen in this league, so our mindset remains the same, remain locked in, keep picking winners, and see where it takes us when all of the dust settles. All right, our yearly results by bet. This is how things shook out for the season in total. For underdogs betting on the spread, this was the third straight year where that bet was more successful than picking favorites on the money line, though nowhere near the historic 57% rate that it had converted at through the 2023 and 2024 seasons put together. It definitely narrowed a lot closer to the mean this year. Judging by our disproportionate amount that we picked favorites over underdogs to kind of have that built in, we had the right idea. In retrospect, I probably should have picked a few more underdogs along the way, but the best teams in the league looked really strong this year, and it was just super hard to fade them, especially against a team like, say, they were going up against a North Arizona or an Iowa or a San Antonio. It was just really, really hard to fade these teams. But in any event, pretty even season on the spread betting for favorites and underdogs. The home versus road split in terms of spreads and money lines, returning to a distinct advantage similar to what we saw in the 2023 season when both Moneyline and spreads were won by the home team at a 60% clip or better. We nearly got all the way there in this season, but the point remains, home teams have been the play, arguably the most profitable, particularly on the spread, through the 2025 season. Does that continue in the postseason where chaos typically reigns? We will soon have to see. Favorites on the money line cashed in at pretty much exactly the expected rate based on historic results. They had entered in 66% efficient, and that's precisely the percentage that we got here. So no total surprises there. The over-under, this is actually the first year in the 3-year history where the overs actually cashed at a higher clip than the unders. Though, again, it's that 2-game difference where it's practically dead even. So that was the season in a nutshell. Week 19 was fairly chalky. Favorites 5-2, both straight up and against the spread, as well as home teams 5-2. Straight up and against the spread as well. So, very interesting season. I feel like we tapped into these trends a lot as the season went along, and we still have 7 games to go to try to capitalize on it yet even further. Alrighty, here are our team-by-team trends. As far as results that are statistically significant here amongst the playoff teams, probably the biggest surprise here, Arizona having only covered 5 times out of 16 throughout the total of this season. Might that be a storyline to look out for as this postseason develops? Obviously, last year it didn't matter too much because Arizona had a 7-9 spread record last year, but still locked it down the rest of the way. 3 straight wins en route to the IFL National Championship, their 7th trophy as a franchise. Might they chart a similar path here? We'll have to see. I will say recent history is against it, but we'll get to that when we cover San Diego's and Arizona's contest. Another notable thing to pick out here, Vegas and area, two of the very best at covering the spread this year, going right at each other with contrasting 10-6 records. That's going to be a fantastic game to look forward to. As far as significant results on the over-under amongst those teams in the playoff field, Bay Area on the under, 10-6 to the under, Quad City 10-6 to the over. The other teams that were statistically significant in that department have since been eliminated from playoff contention. Here are our bet results by team. As far as that 7-win goal, we hit it with every team except for San Diego. So to clinch on 13 of the 14 teams on our preseason goal, pretty darn good. Our most successful teams were Northern Arizona with a 13-3 record and a 7-unit profit margin, with Jacksonville and Bay Area not too far behind, along with Quad City, both of whom returned, all three of whom, Jacksonville and Quad City rather, a little tricky read, returning more than 5 units of net gain, Bay Area giving us 3 units of net gain, and San Diego, obviously, that team straggling behind, having cost us nearly 9 units of overall profit margin. So looking at how this year stacks up against previous year's results, this regular season was our second of 3 in which we've profited. We ended the year, as I said before, with a about +4 unit profit margin, with just the postseason left to play. 7 games left, looking for our second winning postseason in the last 3 years. And in doing some math leading up to tonight's show, if we get to a 5-2 record, we will have actually surpassed the winning percentage of our successful maiden voyage in the 2023 season. So if we can get 5, 6, or even 7 wins, we're going to be right there in about as good a spot as we could hope for. All righty, time for our disclaimers now. The lines and odds that we're going to use today are going to come from DraftKings Sportsbook. No, unless otherwise stated today, it's just straight up DraftKings, as it always has been. This series is purely for fun, curiosity, and entertainment. This is not meant to be betting advice in any way or as some sort of money-making scheme. As we've seen in this league and in sports in general, there is no such thing as a lock in the sports wagering world. If you would like to tail or fade my selections, you are more than welcome to do so, but please gamble responsibly. Practice safe gaming habits out there, including setting limits in terms of both time and money. Risk only what you can afford to lose. And if you or a loved one is having issues with problem gaming or feel like you're teetering in that direction, know that there's plenty of online resources and state-provided resources out there available to help you out. Some examples include haveagameplan.org, responsibleplay.org is another one. Those are great tools to use in terms of debunking myths, directing you to places or people that can help you out. Can't stress it enough. If you feel like it's becoming a problem, definitely take action on it. With all that said, our bracket is locked in. It is time to make some picks here in the first round of the IFL playoffs. Tab up here momentarily. And here we go. So the playoffs begin on Saturday afternoon with a 4 o'clock kickoff. This is the 4 versus 1 in the conference. Out east, it's Jacksonville at Quad City. Odds makers don't really care about seeding here. They view this game as evenly matched, a pure pick'em. The over-under is set at 84.5. The money line, I believe, should read as -110. in both directions. Somehow it reads minus 30 either way. Not 100% sure that's right, but in any event, those are your odds for this contest. These teams, in terms of statistics, there's not much divide here. They actually both scored 725 points right on the dot throughout the 16-game regular season, and the defense is separated by only 16 points, with Jacksonville having given up that many points fewer than Quad City. It's a very interesting matchup. On Jacksonville's side, very young, very talented team. Tyler Huff at quarterback, a combination of DeMontre Tuggle and Larry McCammon at running back. Receiving core of Jaden Stoshak, Ron Ashley, and Marcus Rogers. Defense, you have highlight players like Kevon Bennett, Chris Rice out on the front line, Jay Davis in the secondary, and head coach, blanking on his name, Jason Gibson. Very strong comeback season after a 5-11 2024. Back to playing playoff football after that year out. Quad City, 11-5, similarly skilled. Daquan Neal, very experienced guy at quarterback. Jared Ware Jr. at the running back spot. Receiving core made up of Tamorion Terry, Jordan Vesey, and Kevin Rudd. Defensively, they've got guys like Keyshawn Moore, Cam Harrell, Bubba Arslanian, who may come back from injured reserve for this game. We're not 100% certain, but it does remain a possibility. So that's a bit of a look at the rosters leading up to this game. My pick here leans upon two things. The first off is that Jacksonville, as strong as they've been at times, have had trouble translating their game outside of the Sunshine State. Just 4-4 on the road. That includes 2-6 against the spread. On the other side, Quad City has been a poster child for being extremely strong at home, having only lost there a few times this season, all of whom were to playoff teams, believe it or not. But games in Moline proved to be much, much different animals, particularly playoff games where the Vibrant Arena is set to host for the first time in 18 years. That is the historic significance of this game. My pick here is going to be the Quad City Steamwheelers straight up. I just think the situation is right for Quad City to go out and win this game. They've got the home crowd behind them. They have an extremely experienced quarterback in Daquan Neal, who carries almost a decade's worth of experience in this sport. And we're going to have to see if Tyler Huff's raw skill, how far that's going to take the Sharks offense in a matchup like this. So that is my play here. Would it shock me if Jacksonville won? Not really. We've seen our fair share of number 4 versus number 1 upsets, but I'm going to stick around here and pick the Steamwheelers on the money. So that's the first Eastern semi. The second Eastern semi is going to take place the afternoon of Sunday. Tulsa at Green Bay. This line favors the Blizzard by 6 in the hook. The over-under at 88.5. The money line is Tulsa at plus 155 at the moment, and Green Bay at minus 280. And what we have here is an insane matchup between a quarterback that has won an MVP award already this season and a signal caller on the other side that's probably going to win one in not too much time. Castronova, the AF1 MVP, Max Myler, the very likely candidate as IFL MVP for the 2025 season. This one is going to be fun. Offensively for Tulsa, they boast a roster of guys like Jimmy Smith at running back, a receiving core of Juju Augustine, Jerminic Smith, and Max Novak. Defensively, they trot out there guys like Trey Harvey and Katron Allen. On the Blizzard side, Kimani Clark, Lowell Patron, TJ Davis, among the most skilled players that the league has seen this season. Defensively, they've got guys like Nigel Canada, Andre White, along with Tremont Lofton, who once upon a time won an IFL national championship with the Northern Arizona Wranglers in 2022. So it's the case with basically all of these games. There's going to be talent all around the field. As I thought about this, I felt like my pick was going to either lean upon the underdog here in Tulsa or the point total, if you can believe it. I find that a game that features two guys that both carry 50-plus point per game ceilings has an over-under set in the high 80s. I see value of this, and it's why I'm going with the over at this 88.5 mark. I'll tell you this. If there were a prop bet out there where both teams to score 50-plus points was a thing, I would 100% be sprinkling that in this game. The numbers justify it too here. Green Bay, obviously, is a powerhouse offensive team. They led the league by a wide margin in point scoring on offense per game, and they didn't score fewer than 47 points at home in any game this season. That matches up perfectly against this Oiler defense that, even though they had their strength, we saw most of that in Tulsa. On the road, they're about surrendering 46 points per game, which is about what Green Bay gives up on average throughout the season. I feel like we're going to get points high and flying to start off Sunday's action. So give me Tulsa and Green Bay, the over at 88.5. Alrighty, next up on the list, we have the Vegas Nighthawks and the Bay Area Panthers. Our first Western semifinals take place Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. This is a game where Bay Area, with the best record in the IFL, is favored by 4.5. The over-under 85.5. Present offering on the money line is Vegas plus a quarter, and the Panthers at minus 215. I know I talked up Tulsa and Green Bay as a possible game of the week type of matchup. Vegas Bay Area is right there. These are two of the very best teams in the IFL throughout the last half of the season. On Vegas' side, you've got that two-headed quarterback monster of Jaden Delora and Jerome Johnson, both of whom have a unique skill set that can just burn you at any given time. Antonio Wimbush at running back and kick returner is an absolute weapon. At receivers, you've got guys like C.J. Jefferson, C.J. Wyndham, Quentin Randolph, the franchise's all-time leader at the wide receiver position. Defensively, led by guys like Claude Davis, Bryce Hampton, James Caesar. This is a stacked team playing its best football of the season. And doing some number crunching since week 14, they've actually got the second most efficient offense and the second most efficient defense in the entire league. So they're playing exactly the way they need to, leading up to match up with this Bay Area team. Third in scoring offense, first in scoring defense, and you know for a fact that last year is going to put a chip on their shoulder when they were also the number one seed, but got upset 49-40 in a heartbreaking loss against the San Diego Strikers. So if any team is motivated to get the win here, you can make the argument that it's Bay Area. Man, this game's going to have it all. If their last game was any indication back in, I think it was week 17, we're in for a delight here. We really are. Both teams match up so well against each other, where it seems to me like the play is backing the underdog here. And for that reason, I am going Vegas on the points. It's also worth noting, for what it's worth as well, that the number 4 versus number 1 matchup in the Western Conference has been won by the number 4 seeded team for 2 years running. So Vegas would love nothing more than to complete the trifecta here. The Bay Area, as long as they keep their offense rolling, like Josh Jones, Josh Tomas, Trayvon Alexander, Tyrese Chambers, Tosinoy Economy, there's just going to be so much firepower in this game. I am so excited to see how this one is going to shake out. But I like Vegas here. They're 6-2 ATS in their last 8 games, and all we need them to do here is keep it close with the Panthers the whole way through. If worse comes to worse, if this gets decided by a field goal, we're pretty much safe. So I'm going to take that benefit of the doubt here. Make this a rare underdog spread bet. And Vegas on the points. Let's see how it goes. All right, the last playoff game of the slate. It is a Monday nighter at 10:05. The San Diego Strikeforce at the Arizona Rattlers. Rematch of last year's Western Conference Final. The spread is Arizona 2.5. The over/under 85.5. The money line San Diego even money and Arizona minus 170. Now this game here, I can see going in so many different ways. I really can. San Diego is led on offense by quarterback Nate Davis, current acting running back and utility man Rudy Johnson, a receiving core with guys like Shane Hooks, Dallas Daniels, and John Maldonado, a defense led by guys like Matt Elam, Devin Hafford, Atoa Fox. Very respectable team off another double-digit win season under Taylor Jenniser, who was last year's Coach of the Year nomination. They're looking for redemption here against the reigning champions. Arizona, they've got Dalton Snead, 2-time defending champion, winner of his last 6 postseason starts in the Indoor Football League. He is joined by complementary pieces on offense like Shannon Brooks, Ron Brown, Jamal Miles, Johannes Tyler, just to name a few of their skill position players, along with a defensive front that includes Jalen Campbell, Devontae Merriweather, and Jermaine Dobbs as another notable piece of that Arizona secondary. I'm undecided on this one. I mean, I kind of am, I'm kind of not. But given the streaks that overs have been on this season, and kind of like the built-in tentativeness, if that makes any sense, on how many points are going to be panned out here, I'm going to go with the second over pick. And this is at 85.5. This is my reasoning why. We've had 2 games in this season series between these 2 teams. In each game, both teams only had 9 possessions. The league average is right around 10.5. So if you bring both teams up from that 9 possession per game metric, give the teams a combined 3 possessions more total, you improve on games that ended up having 89 points and 72 points, and that 72 was in the last game when both teams kind of played the first half, and that was basically it as far as suspenseful football. So, of course, if one team happens to crater and another defense shines, that definitely puts some risk into this. But I still like this play nonetheless. Nate Davis and Dalton Snead, again, 2 very high upside quarterbacks, great supporting cast around them. For the most part, fully healthy as well. That definitely takes part into some of this thinking. And the fact is, this is their 3rd matchup in 23 games. There's going to be nothing that comes as a surprise to either offense going up against their counterpart on defense. So for this game, give me the over at 85.5. So those are my single game selections for the week ahead. Now it's time to construct the 3-leg parlay. Is this the one that hits? To start off, I'm going to take Jacksonville Quad City on the over here. I just think this number is too low, especially for Quad City, who is 10-6 to the over in total on the season. That was third best in the Indoor Football League. As for Jacksonville, like I said, we're going to see how their young offense adjusts to playoff football, but they do enter this game as the most efficient per 10 possession offense in the Indoor Football League, generating 54 points per 10 possessions. So they're red hot right now. Merciless offensive attack grounded in the rushing game. Tyler Huff making significant strides as a passer as well. I think we're going to have an over game to start this playoff slate. My second leg will go down on Sunday. And I'm going to ride the Castronova streak here to the tune of a plus 6.5 cover. If I get a little bit greedier here, I'd probably lean towards the money line. But we're going to take the points, we're going to tease this, and we're going to see how it goes. I just think this is a game where that difference might come down to a touchdown. Whoever doesn't score on that pivotal possession, maybe in the second half. Whether that's 6 or 7 points, who knows? Maybe special teams gets involved as well with some rouges and deuces. But I feel obligated to have to roll with the Castronova effect. He's 15-0 this year, split between Albany and Tulsa. Why are we going to go away from that now? Doesn't make sense to me, in my opinion. So, second leg, Tulsa at plus 6.5. Monday's leg, and I'm sure I'm not going to get burned by this at all, is Arizona on the money line. At the moment, at minus 175, I'm not sure if this might be because where I'm located. We will have to see, but these were at their default values earlier today. So when I wrote my piece here, the odds of this parlay hitting was plus 512. It got juiced all the way down to plus 397 here. I'm going to count it anyways here. This is definitely not a regular payout shift, so I feel like I can forgive myself for this. But this basically comes down again to home team dominance and the Rattlers trying to redefine IFL history. Dalton Snead also on that playoff hot streak. Super hard to fade. And you have to think that the typical Kevin Guy masterclass against Nate Davis could very well happen in this game in a hostile environment. That is the play I'm going to make here. These are my picks in total. Again, depending on where you are, these odds may be different. But the 3-leg parlay shakes out to be Jacksonville Quad City over 84.5, Tulsa plus 6.5 at Green Bay, and Arizona to take care of business at home against the Strike Force money line. On my written piece, $10 bet would win $62 and a bit of pocket change if it does hit. And this will hold up in any case as my final parlay attempt on the season. So with that, we're going to conclude tonight's episode of Wager Wednesday. I thank you all so much for tuning in. Before heading out, I definitely recommend checking out my King of the Turf 2 promotion that is live right now. It is a chance for you to protect these games in the IFL yourself. And if you're right on a bunch of the games, as well as the margins of victory, you could be going home with the title of King of the Turf and a $100 gift card to Group. All you have to do is fill out a few questions on the Google form that I have linked at the bottom of this description. It is completely free to enter, so definitely go check it out. If you participate, I wish you the very best of luck, and I hope you're prepared for an exciting week of high-stakes, single elimination playoff football to come. So that's going to do it for me here tonight from Old DNB. Thanks again for tuning in. If you do test your luck, I wish you the very best. We'll see you at the cashier.